Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for listening. It is currently Halloween. Actually, technically, at the time of this recording, Halloween is over. It is officially November, and that's insane. This month has gone by so fast. October, honestly, the fastest month and somehow the longest month of the entire year for some reason. I mean, I'm going to guess a lot of it has to do with the election coming up, but October's officially over, and I'm kind of bummed, to be honest. October, it's my favorite month of the entire year, and it went by too fast. Halloween happened. It's all over. We had no kids. That's the one. It's like the nice thing about living in a condo, but it's kind of less exciting because as I get older, I think the giving out candy is actually more fun than I have had more fun giving out candy than actually ever going to get candy as a kid. I seem to look forward to that more often. But living in a condo, you don't really get that. Because, there's like one kid in the building, and like, what am I going to do? Go down there? And I mean, that's just weird. That's like weird neighbor stuff, you know? Now we got to like look at the kids like across the street out the window, and then you just feel like a weirdo. That's the thing, is like we live in like there's a neighborhood it's definitely, it looks at first glance, it looks like the perfect neighborhood to go trick-or-treating, but then something tells me the homeowners don't really participate in it for some reason. Like, we were looking, like, as soon as like the sun went down, I was like, man, I wonder when it starts, because we don't have an official, like, it's an official holiday that everyone for the most part acknowledges, right? Like, I feel like everything, it's kind of turned into the adult version of Halloween. You know what I mean? Like, it means more to adults in some ways. It's like the season, because like we went out last weekend, which is technically like, it's like the Saturday before. Like, if Halloween falls on a Thursday like this, like next year it'll be on a Friday. So like, people will celebrate on a Friday. You'll have your Halloween parties, but everything happened last weekend. And I know this because we went out and I was like, why is this guy dressed like a box of cereal and he's bleeding? Like, we were just walking through Chicago and I'm like, everybody's dressed real weird. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Halloween. This happens to me every year, I swear. I like kind of forget, like, oh, that's right. People like have friends and go party and stuff. I'm like in my sweatpants and a t-shirt and Crocs or whatever the hell I'm wearing, I just look like this thing is like, I guess I kind of look like a character of some sort, right? Just like I look like a manic crazy person on the street. I'm technically always in costume if that's the case. But that was my Halloween, man. Pretty low key. And honestly, it kind of should be, right? I mean, I'm in my 30s. Unless you got kids, or if you're like, you have kids in your family, what are you doing? I do like everything else about Halloween, though. I love the scary movies, all that stuff. Every year I try to watch one I haven't seen. This one I haven't seen, called Terrifier. I finally watched it for the first time. It came out in like 2016, and it was good. I liked it, but it's one of those where you're like, you gotta be able to really just let everything be the reality. You know what I mean? Like, it's like one of those movies when you're watching it, and you're like, okay, what is she's gonna survive this? You know what I mean? Something insane happens to her, where like, if this were reality, if I got hit on the head with a hammer, I'm not getting up. You know what I mean? I hate that guy at the movie. I've been that guy many times, by the way. And when I say that guy, I don't mean anyone in particular, because I think we all do this at some point, where you're just kind of like, I feel like you're trying to justify this movie or call it crazy so you don't get scared. It's almost like a defense mechanism, where you're like, that couldn't happen. What is this? And then you're just like, okay, this is all fake. Kind of reminds you, like, this isn't that scary. Even though it was kind of, it was nuts. No one likes watching a movie with that guy, though, where it's like, this wouldn't happen. Like, of course it wouldn't, okay? Like, this guy got smoked with a hammer, sawed in half, and you're kind of like, well, this is impossible. What am I watching this for? It's not even real. And it's like, that's the whole point. Like, if this were realistic, this movie would have been 10 minutes. Anyway, all that spooky season is over. Now we have the real horrifying season, election season comes to an end on Tuesday. I hope you're all voting. That's what you got to say. You got to encourage everyone to vote. Whenever someone says that, though, I can always tell, like, they don't say who you should vote for, but they should get out there and vote. And it's like, yeah. I don't know. It's weird times. It's weird because I'm getting very annoyed with a lot of these, like, first of all, the ads and everything. And I get it. There's people who are, I guess, undecided that they're trying to get to vote. But I wish there was a way for people who, I guess, already voted or have decided to just shut those off. Because now I'm furious. It's like, what? I get it. There's an election. It's always the most important election. Look, and I know this election's important because all these texts I'm getting now are referring to me as Nathan. I don't know how they found out my real name, but when someone calls me Nathan, I know it's serious. You know, every 4 years, too, during the election, I'm fascinated by the amount of stickers they give out. You know, you got to think, how many millions of people vote? Well, we don't even have that high of a turnout percentage-wise compared to some other countries, but I mean, think of the millions of stickers. I mean, if there's one winner of every election, it's the sticker companies, man. I wish, like, we should all start a company. We should all start a company that makes stickers and get the I voted contract. I wonder if you could just do that, you know, just make your own I voted stickers and sell them to people. I bet you you know what? Let me look into this. I bet we could all become millionaires for sure. I mean, just think of okay, you have a sticker company, right? You print anybody's stickers or whatever. And then you get one of these big contracts with, like, you know, politicians or the government. You know, it's like I'm trying to think of a similar industry where it's like, yeah, we have one contract. It's the government, and that pays us millions of dollars, and we only work once every 4 years. That's what we got to get in on. Just doing stickers, the I voted stickers. We can do each campaign's stickers. I mean, you got to get both campaigns on board. Like, I was thinking about that when Joe Biden dropped out and Kamala Harris took over, right? And she became the nominee. You got to think, overnight, they had to print all of that merch, all of those yard signs. Think of all the Joe Biden yard signs people had already. Those people, assuming they wanted to get a sign for Harris, right? They had to order a new sign. That means, and I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, I don't even know where to start thinking about that. First of all, I'm not a big sign guy. If I owned property, I don't think I'd be the type of person to put a sign on either side. I don't need, whenever somebody does that, I always feel like they do it with this little attitude of like, you know, like just kind of like to make everyone else either jealous or not jealous, but, you know, be like, this is how I feel. And a lot of times I didn't ask, or I didn't even want to know, man. You know what I mean? Even if I agree with you, I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, of course, if I agree with the person who lives in this house and I feel the same way about whatever proposition sign you have on your lawn, it's still like, okay, obviously I'll at least have an idea of what kind of conversations we can have without you getting mad also. And I know what to like agree with you on, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I think that's like the worst part about this whole thing is like you can't even have like a normal conversation. You got to like walk on eggshells around people because everyone just feels like they're right and they know, you know, and there's no like nuance anymore in these conversations. So I just like kind of shut it all down whenever it comes up. I change the subject. Like the weather used to be the safe spot, right? You could just talk about the weather, but now that's like, you bring up the weather around the wrong people. You're like, man, they're making hurricanes. And you're like, shit, I didn't mean that. Like, no, not the weather. How about sports? No, that's divisive too. God, you can't talk about anything. Speaking of weather, man, it's been hot. For 2 days in a row this week, it was like close to 80. We had all the windows open and I was sweating. It felt like the middle of summer with like dying leaves. It was insane. It was so hot here in the Midwest. And then today it was like 30 or something. I mean, okay, that's an exaggeration, but it was all over the place. And you're just kind of like, man, this is bad news, right? It's not supposed to be 80 degrees at the end of October. Also, I saw this picture of Mount Fuji today with no snow on it. And they say this is the first time it's had no snow in 130 years, which is nuts. That's so long ago, number one. And number two, apparently that's when they, because, everyone's like, this can't be, because you see a picture like that, you're like, this is fake, right? You're just like hoping someone's like, yeah, this is a photoshopped photo. And you're like, and you find out it's real. And they're like, yeah, no, we went back to when we started keeping records of this. And we found it hasn't happened once. So it's like, it's a bit worrisome. It's like, should I contribute to my IRA? Or should I just have some fun for the next 20 years? You know what I mean? Like, is there a point in putting money aside, or should I? Like, that's really my main concern is like, I got to really know. I don't like, because I feel like if there's one thing we're never going to know, it's like how serious this climate change stuff is. Like, they're never going to be honest with us, because if they give us a date, like an exact date of when stuff's going to get like bad, I don't think they're going to tell us, right? They don't want us losing our minds, because like if we all have a date, everyone's going to buy all the toilet paper and stuff. We're idiots. So I don't think they're going to be honest about it. And that's the most annoying part, because I'm like, I just got to know how hard I'm supposed to work, because like, it used to be like, hey, work real hard for 30 years, save your money, and you do it right, you can retire. And it's like, well, if we're not going to get to do that, I got some trips I want to go on, man. I got a whole list of things I'd like to do instead of working, because I mean, if it's like, let's say it's 20 years, I'll be 52. That's pretty young still. So like, that's young enough where I'm like, I could get a lot done. And then if I still have zero money at when everything hits the fan, it's good, right? Like that's a good run. Anyway, let's talk about something positive, shall we? I don't mean to bum everybody out with all this climate change talk. Like, I know this isn't like, that's the thing about this podcast, is I just kind of ramble in the dark on Halloween, and then I just put it on the internet. So thanks for listening if you're here. Now, here's some good news. I've been eating healthy, right? This was my big goal for the week. I was like, hey, look, we went out last weekend. We went out, like, you ever just have, I've been a little stressed lately. So I'm like, I've been letting my impulses kind of take over. You know what I mean? You ever just have like a week like that where you're just like, I don't know, things are just getting to me. I'm like, let's go out. Let's go get dinner and have a night. We don't do that a lot. So I was like, let's go get dinner. And then the next day, I'm like, you know what? I don't want the groceries. We don't really have the things I want right now. I got to go to the store, but I don't want to go to the store. So let's go get lunch. So then that snowballs, and we made, these decisions back to back to back. Usually you spread those out, right? And like a normal, like, hey, we're keeping this even keeled. No, this last weekend, it was just completely indulging. I mean, I'm having like pizza and like, you know what else I tried? And this is like so against, this was like my quote unquote rock bottom last weekend, is I tried the chicken Big Mac. I had a show Saturday, and on the way back, I'm like, I've been seeing this ad and I kind of want to do it just out of curiosity. So I got a chicken Big Mac, and I tell you what, it was actually good. I think I'm the only person in this world that seems to really like it. The other reviews I've read have been like kind of negative, or like people just like, have you ever liked something more than most of the general consensus of everyone on Twitter? You know what I mean? Like if you just search it, most of the comments are negative. And like, maybe it's just because I went to Twitter. I don't know. But people in my immediate life think it was a weird decision. And once you start telling people, like your friends, you put it in the group chat, the big group chat you're in, and everyone's like, whoa, dude, why'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. It was late. I saw the ads and it made me so I was more out of curiosity, but then I actually ended up enjoying it. So it was kind of like good, but then good for the wrong reasons. And you're like, oh, this is, and once you start typing it out, the specific feelings that you had, and you like read them back to yourself, and you're like, you know what? I don't know, man. You should probably like take a week and try and eat healthier, you know? And I got to be honest, it's been a solid, like, here we are, end of the week. Man, I've had oatmeal every morning, and like, this isn't even like, that's a weird thing to brag about. That's like officially, you're not young anymore. And like, there's a moment like, and I actually kind of like it, like it's something I kind of look forward to now in the morning. Like, it's kind of become my new little habit. Once you replace like the other impulses with like, okay, I gotta like make this a ritual. I get up, I make the coffee, I put on the news, which is also another thing I'm wrestling with. Less news is what I should be consuming, right? But I'm working on it, one thing at a time. Look, I ease into the day, and I fire up the stove. I got my trusty pot with me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make some oatmeal. And I'm standing there looking at it like I've become my grandparents. I remember they used to make this, and it was just like, it's just funny where you're just like, man, this is where I'm at. And I'm still young, but I'm still looking at a bowl of oatmeal. And once you jazz it up, it's actually not bad. You put like honey on it or cinnamon or something, it's fine. You can get it down. It's no chicken Big Mac though, I'll tell you that. For the life of me, I'll never understand. That's like, and this might be the hackiest thing. Well, okay, it won't be the hackiest thing I've ever said, probably ever. I can't really promise you that. But at this very moment, all I could think is like, I got this chicken Big Mac the other night. Horrible for you, of course, right? Just like probably one of the worst things you can put in your body. And it's delicious. And I loved it. And then I go to this oatmeal and I'm like, and this is good for me, right? Healthy, the kind of thing you should be eating. Put a little fruit in there. And it's good for what it is. But the point is it's good for what it is. You're like looking at it like, oh, I can't believe this is where I'm at. I had to force myself to get into oatmeal this week. So that was my big thing. I'm like, I'm going to start working in oatmeal, right? I'm going to eat healthier, make some salads for lunch, right? And then like basically just keep it under control. That was my move. And so far it's been great. And you know what? I've been so focused on that I haven't had one drink all week, which is unheard of. Usually there's some occasion where I'm like, you know what? Let's have a couple drinks tonight. And then it's like, next thing you know, I'm like, well, it's been almost every day. And now I'm not talking like off the deep end, but just enough that it affects your sleep and your day to day. And I'm like, wow, it's been like 5 days. I've been like, no alcohol, eating healthy. And here I am. We're going into Friday, right? And it's like, let's see how long I can keep this going. Cause like, part of me is like, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier with money and like, how much time do we really have left as like civilization, like as we know it? And I'm like, okay, if I could time it out right, if I stop saving now, we'll be all right. Or same goes for like alcohol and health. I'm like, okay, if I, the whole point of eating healthy now is so like I can move when I'm 70. You know what I mean? And so I'm not like, on a respirator or like in the like constant, blood pressure and all these other problems that older people get. And then it's like, what's the point in doing that if we're all gonna like, if we're gonna run out of fresh water in 20 years, if we're gonna run out of fresh water in 20 years, I'm gonna have that chicken Big Mac, Honestly, for the record, I don't need you judging me here, okay? I don't want you to judge. It's probably the only chicken Big Mac I'll ever get, okay? Because it was just like this offbeat experiment, and it happened to be a success. And I feel like another one it's not gonna be the same. It's not after a week of oatmeal. Okay. I feel like after a week of oatmeal, the regret I'll have from going back to the chicken Big Mac is probably it's probably going to be dark times. Okay. And I don't think you want to listen to that episode. I don't mean to not. I hope this is funny because it's cracking me up. But I feel like there's something about. I mean, if you could see where I'm sitting right now, it's a dark room, but I got a window with the shade open and some light coming in. But otherwise, it's pretty dark, and so I feel like that affects my. It's affecting my tone and my mood right now. Also, congrats to the Dodgers for winning the World Series, which talk about like the most. I'm torn because it was entertaining, but it was the dumbest World Series. It's like, okay, LA, New York, kind of lame, right? Especially if you're a Tigers fan like me. Like that's the main reason I was like, man, this is kind of a bummer, but also this is dumb. It's just like two rich teams. It's just not, I don't know. It's just, I kind of just rolled my eyes for most of it, but I did watch it. That's the thing. I watched it. I was the guy that would hate on it and then definitely watch every game. And there's something about it. It's just fun for me, I guess. Like I love the guy on the New York fan that pried that ball out of Bet's hands. And like, I'm sure you've seen the picture or the video of it. This guy looked like a total dork. Like, he just seems like a real a-hole. And like, it was funny in the moment when it happened. You're like, what is this guy doing? And if you haven't seen it, you got to go look up the video because he literally, it was like at the wall, right? Jumps up, makes the catch, closes his mitt, and they hold his arm and they pry his mitt open and fling the ball out. And they're just like drunk jerks is what they are. You know what I mean? It wasn't like some innocent interference or whatever. It wasn't like that. It was like, no, they were intentionally just ruining the entire play. And I mean, it was out anyway, so it was a pretty simple ruling, I guess, on what happened, and the guys got kicked out or whatever. But the thing that like blew my mind about this whole thing that went down is, remember that guy, that Cubs fan who was like, what's his? I can't remember his name, but he caught that ball. And it was kind of like an innocent mistake, and he like ruined the game, and they did a whole documentary on it. But this guy, the entire city still like hates him, which I find funny. And this was like, oh God, it was the 90s, I'm pretty sure, or early 2000s. I mean, forgive my ignorance here, but that guy just like acts. I bet you he saw this and was so pissed because these New York fans that did this, they were like glorified. First of all, they became like the perfect meme, right? And then the next thing you know, they're taking pictures with fans and they're like signing stuff. And there was like season ticket holders. So they were going to let them still like go to the next game, but they ended up not letting them in. But I just feel like that kind of behavior is like where we're at now. It's like it's like I don't want to compare them. They're kind of like the next Hawk Tua guy. You know what I mean? Like they'll have a podcast. The next thing you know, they'll have their own talk show. It's just like some idiot. And the thing is, like, you couldn't draw a better looking idiot for that exact moment. It was perfect. Now I watched, I'm what I would self-describe myself as a casual sports fan. Okay, I watch a little bit of all sports, right? Enough to like wet my whistle, Like just I don't need this stuff ruining my day, ruining my week. I just like to watch it and know what's going on. And it is fun. It's fun to watch like the competitiveness of it, but I still don't know enough about every sport where like where I can like intimately have a conversation like about specific details about what's going on, certain history and how it affects the game now and stuff like that and all. I can't really have a conversation like that. However, I can talk about how it's like, I don't want to be this guy, but I think it's silly we have umpires still, because like, you have the umpires and they're mostly right oftentimes, and then when they're wrong they just go to the cameras, and it's like, well, we just have 2 million cameras now. We have every angle you can want. they have a camera in the mound now, and I know it's kind of like it would ruin I guess the way the game feels on the field. You got to have the umpire behind the catcher, and then it's like, if that's not there, it's like weird, but now it just kind of feels like it's there for decoration in a way, and for the most part, they're right. But then when they're wrong, it's so weird because everyone can see that they're wrong, It makes me wonder, like, how many games in history, like before we had all this technology, was a mistake made, and then that's just permanent record, and we have no way of going back and, like, reviewing footage or correcting the call or anything like that, Regardless, it is impressive that someone can stand behind a batter, a catcher, with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball coming at you, not being terrified, even with all that, like, protective gear on, and not being scared. I couldn't do it. I don't know. I think I always think it'd be fun to, like, get on the, get in the batter's box and getting ready to swing at a pitch. I would love to swing at a legit professional pitch from, like, a legit pitcher, I'm like, give me a legit how you would throw this Game 7 of the World Series, and I just want to see, first of all, what it looks like, like, what is the batter seeing, and how late would I swing? You know what I mean? Like, the timing of it, it's pretty, like, that's when you start to see, like, oh, this is kind of impressive. Now, to be an umpire, you gotta see everything. And I just know I could never do that. I'd be like, oh my God, guys, I'm sorry, I zoned out. I was thinking about what I was thinking about the chicken Big Mac, Like, that's the thing, is random thoughts will enter my head, and I'm like, wait, was that a strike? Damn it, son of a bit. Like, you know what I mean? It would be like that. So I wouldn't get that far as an umpire. I remember one time I was in Daytona Beach, Florida. I was doing shows, and the hotel I was staying at, there was an umpire school, and these, if I understand it correctly, that there's, like, only a handful of these, like, schools where it's like these guys and women want to become professional or, like, collegiate level or whatever umpires, and they're training, and it's like you go there for however long. And the thing is, I woke up every morning to them. They would stand in lines, like, there's like groups of 20 or whatever it was. And they would stand in like a perfect line and by rows. And then they'd be like yelling their calls or whatever. And they'd be like doing their hand motions and things. And they would be so into it. And out of context on the beach, that is the funniest thing you'll ever see. Because not only are you like, you want to be an umpire, which is like kind of a cool dream, but also kind of weird. I mean, I'm not hating on it because I do comedy and a podcast, okay? Like, I get it. I know about weird interests and things that you like to do. Like this, for some reason, I like doing this. For some reason, you like not only watching baseball, but you want to be like a referee, basically. When AI is coming for that job, But, like, when you're on the beach with 50 other umpires in training and you're yelling the same thing at the same time, it's funny. And they would get out there at 7 or 8 in the morning and wake me up, and I would be furious. And then I would sit on this balcony and watch these people just pretend like they're calling a baseball game. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And that was years ago. So I don't even know. I wonder how far any of those people have made it. Or if that's like one of those things where it's like it's trade school, they're like, hey, come down to, you like baseball? You want to be an umpire? Why don't you come down to our school? And then that'll be $10,000. And, good luck. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thanks for listening. If you want to keep in touch, follow me on the internet at Nate Comedy on all social media, or sign up for my email list. I'll give you cool stuff. And by cool stuff, that is show updates, special announcements, and things like that. So sign up. Also, I'm working on like a new project. I'm trying to be like, I like this kind of format where it's kind of like I can kind of like talk about the things I think are funny, but it's not necessarily stand up. So that's why I like doing this podcast. That's really the main reason I do it. And the fact that anyone gets any joy out of this is unbelievable. But it gives me a specific goal in mind, like to work on a funny thought and to like share it. And like in a podcast setting, it's a little different. So it gives me kind of just like this way to work out my ideas in my brain, and it gives me also something to do. So I've been like thinking like, like between this is like probably the most creative thing that I do outside of stand up, where it's like it's a creative outlet and I get to make a thing and share it with people. Because I'm not a film guy. I mean, I would love to be, but I don't have the. I feel like if the older I'm getting, the more time I have to focus on something and really like to get good at it, to get good enough, and like to feel like it was worth it. I feel like that just isn't gonna happen for me. Like sure, I'd love to like film a thing and put it out, sketches, whatever. I don't have the time or the resources to do it the way I would want to do it, and I don't have the patience right now to figure out how to do it. So I'm going the other direction. I've got this podcast, it's all audio, and that's fun. Also, another thing I'm working on is like a newsletter-esque, basically on Substack, and it'll be like written stuff that's a little more fleshed out and thought about and organized than this podcast. So it'll be random ass ideas and hopefully funny things, and that'll be starting soon, and you'll find out all about that if you sign up for the email list. Okay, and that'll be completely free or whatever. So if you like just being entertained, hopefully this is a place you like to be for that. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.